I stood at the back of the grand ballroom, my hand clenched around the cold steel of the doorframe. The sound of violins reached my ears, sweet and haunting, as the guests took their seats. The rich, golden glow of chandeliers above bathed the room in a soft, almost sickly light. Everything felt wrong. The air was heavy with perfume, laughter, and the unmistakable scent of a wedding. Her wedding. Her wedding. I watched as she stood there, radiant in a dress I had never seen before, the fabric gleaming under the lights, her blonde hair flowing over her shoulders in perfect curls. The man beside her, my replacement, held her hand, his grip possessive, confident. He wore a sharp tuxedo, the kind I could never afford, his face a mask of smug satisfaction. They were ready to be married. She was ready to marry him. I had been there for her through everything. Every broken dream, every late-night conversation, every tear that fell from her eyes when the world seemed to weigh too heavy. And now, she was about to say I do to a man she barely knew, a man she'd chosen over me. Over everything we built together. The betrayal stung deep, deeper than I had allowed myself to admit. The world around me felt muffled, as if I was submerged underwater. Her smile, that perfect, flawless smile meant for him, seemed to shimmer in the distance, mocking me. But something in my chest twisted, a mixture of anger and pain, and for the first time, the coldness inside me was welcome. It would see me through this. The door creaked, and I stepped inside. In the weeks leading up to this day, something had felt off. Small things, insignificant on their own, had planted seeds of doubt. The empty hours she spent on her phone, her distracted look when I asked about it. The way she would shut down conversations with the slightest touch of my hand, as if she was trying to put distance between us. But I had been blind, lost in the idea of love. A man doesn't want to see the cracks in his marriage when everything around him tells him to be happy, to be content. The red flags that now seemed so clear, I had once waved away like unwanted flies. But it wasn't just the phone, the distance, the late nights at work. It was the emptiness I saw in her eyes, the coldness in her voice when she spoke to me, the way she stopped caring. But the hardest part? The hardest part was when she told me. One evening, over dinner, she simply looked at me with those cold, distant eyes, and said, "I'm leaving. I'm in love with someone else." It wasn't the words themselves that shattered me. It was the way she said them, like a business transaction, like she was ordering coffee at a CAF. There was no fight, no anger, no hesitation. Just cold detachment. The woman I had spent years with building a life, a home, was gone. And in her place stood a stranger. "I'll never forgive you for this," I had whispered, my voice trembling. But I knew deep down it wasn't the betrayal that stung the most. It was that she never fought for us. And now, here I was, standing in the back of her wedding. As the guests watched with bated breath, I did something I knew I would regret. I walked toward them, each step heavier than the last. My hands trembled, but not from fear. It wasn't fear that gripped me. It was the weight of knowing what I had to do. I had prepared for this moment for weeks, testing every theory, every detail. There were questions I needed answers to. And I would get them now, in front of all these people. I stood just a few feet away from them. My eyes locked onto hers, shocked, confused, and then, almost imperceptibly, a flash of recognition. She tried to mask it, but I saw it in the way her body stiffened. And then I spoke, my voice cutting through the heavy air, sharp and deliberate. "Before you say I do," I began, my words thick with emotion, "check your phone." There was a sharp intake of breath. The guests shifted, whispering. But my eyes never left hers. I could see the color drain from her face as she fumbled for her phone in the folds of her gown, her fingers shaking. I didn't wait. I didn't give her a chance to cover up the lies anymore. She stared at the screen, her eyes flicking back and forth as the text messages revealed themselves, texts from him, from her, intimate exchanges that I had been too blind to see before. Her face turned pale, her lips quivering. The silence in the room deepened, thick and suffocating, as she looked up at me. The tears began to well in her eyes, but it was too late for that. I didn't," she stammered. I didn't let her finish. You didn't think I would find out? You thought you could destroy everything and walk away without consequence? The groom looked at her, a mixture of confusion and fury crossing his face. I turned to him. This is what she's been hiding, I said, my voice flat. The woman you're about to marry is a liar. She's been with me for years, and I don't think you want to spend your life with someone who thinks so little of you. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about justice. About making him see, that you can't just tear people apart without leaving marks, without consequences. I'd spent nights plotting this, watching, waiting for the right moment. I had known she would try to sneak away, that she'd want to sweep everything under the rug as if nothing happened. The rage inside me had grown since she left. It had started as sadness, but it morphed, darkened, into something more dangerous. I had to make sure she knew the weight of what she was doing. When I saw her again, her eyes never met mine. She was too busy trying to salvage her wedding, to salvage whatever dignity she had left. But it was clear. She wasn't the woman I once loved. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone else, someone who would throw everything away for a selfish desire. No, this wasn't revenge. It was retribution. Her face twisted in horror as she stumbled backward, her breath ragged. She looked at me like a deer caught in headlights, torn between guilt and fear. I can't believe you, she whispered, but I heard the tremor in her voice. Don't even, I said, my voice cold. You wanted this. You chose this path. And now you'll face the consequences. She turned to her groom, the man she had chosen over me, her tears falling freely. You don't understand, she pleaded, but the groom had heard enough. Get out, he said, his voice thick with anger, barely able to mask his humiliation. Get out of here. I don't want you anymore. She didn't need to be told twice. She turned, her white gown trailing behind her as she fled, leaving the ballroom in chaos. The wedding was over before it even began. The next few days were a blur. Her phone calls came, begging for forgiveness, but I didn't want her apologies. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done to me, to him, to everyone who had trusted her. There was no apology she could offer that would erase the pain, no words that could fix what was broken. I stood in front of the mirror, examining the man I had become. Cold. Hardened. But there was something else, something new. A sense of clarity. The years of doubt, of self-doubt, melted away. I had nothing left to lose. And I had come out on top. I stood at the edge of the world I once knew, watching it crumble. The past, the woman I loved, the life I thought I had, all of it slipping through my fingers like sand. But there was peace in that. The rage had burned itself out, and all that remained was the truth. I had nothing left to prove. No one left to impress. And that was enough.